This World Cup just continue to defy the definition of insanity. I mean, we have seen so many upsets in this World Cup, and we have seen so many big teams, so many teams that coming into this World Cup you would think that they would at least reach to the semis or even reach the final or even win the whole competition. And look what happened. They all got eliminated very early in either in the knockout stage or in the group stage. And Spain is going to be another team that joins that list of the disappointment and the shocking early exit of the big teams in this tournament, as they lose to Russia. In this game, they lost to them in penalties. And, I said in the preview that if Russia was going to maybe win this game, it could be potentially they might win this either in a miraculous way or they might win it in penalties. Okay, I don't think I said that they would potentially win it in penalties, but I would say that Russia, the only way I can see them winning against Spain is that they need some miracle, they need some luck involved in it. And who would have thought that luck that they needed was Gerard PK decided to go full Umtiti and decided to handball it when he was jumping up in the air and basically raise his hand like he's about to answer a question in a classroom, and he draws that penalty. I mean, it's incredible how we have seen so far in this World Cup. Not only we've seen some crazy kind of upset, but we have seen some of the most stupidest red cards. Well, not red card, but the stupidest kind of penalty given up, where guys are just literally putting their hands up in an unnatural position and hopefully that they might get away with just handing the ball, even though VAR is clearly in effect in this World Cup, and that it's pretty blatantly obvious that the referee will always gonna call that. And like I said, PK just, I don't know what he was thinking of raising his hand up, and he gave away this penalty. By the way, Spain actually did lead in this game. It was thanks to, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce this guy's name, but it was because when the ball was driven in and Ramos was actually right next to this player, and they were trying to battle for the ball to potentially, whoever wins the ball could potentially either Ramos put it into the back of the net or this guy potentially clear the ball out of the area. Unfortunately, this Russian defender did win that battle, but instead of him trying to clear the ball away, he basically put it into his own net. And, at that point, Spain were up 1-0, and I'm pretty sure everybody would have thought that at that point, okay, yep, this is Spain, they're up 1-0, they're gonna eventually turn it on, they're probably gonna score 2 or 3 or 4 to easily cruise their way into the quarterfinal, but no, they did not. They just literally let the foot off the gas. They kind of remind me of my Quakes team. Whenever they went up 1-0, they just, instead of really going for the second goal and really put the throat down their opponent, they just sat back, kind of relaxed, not really thinking that Russia was going to trouble them in any ways. And what do you know? Eventually they did trouble them, and the handball that happened to PK right around the 41st minute. I mean, before this penalty, Spain absolutely dominated this game. I mean, they had, I think, 80% possession in the first half, and Russia was just kind of like sitting back and hopefully they can hit on the counter attack or maybe relying on a lucky break like what happened with PK there. And it just felt like there is just no way how in the world this Spanish team are not up by more than 2 goals. And in some way, it's kind of similar to what happened in their group stage game when they play against Iran, and how when Spain had majority of the possession and they absolutely dominated Iran, they just don't have that clinical kind of final pass and that clinical goal scorer to potentially put the ball into the back of the net. And, they let Russia hang in this game and let them stay in this one, and eventually this one did go to the penalty kick shootout, which I think that is what Russia really wanted to do. I mean, it's either them potentially score a lucky goal to win this game, or they're going to take this all the way to the penalty kick shootout and just take their chances of potentially winning it in PK. And what do you know? They did exactly that. They won in PK. Their goalkeeper, Akinfeev, made 2 of the 5 save in the penalty kick shootout, and Russia convert all 5 of their penalty, and yeah, Spain is out. Spain joins now Argentina, Germany, and Portugal as the big teams that you would think that will go far in the tournament, but they're now out of the tournament. And now, because Spain is out, and if you look at the lower bracket, it is now even more weaker. I mean, when you look at the lower bracket in the knockout stage, and when you look at all the team that is in the knockout stage in the lower bracket, you would think that Spain would at least make it to the semi-final. I mean, they have such an easy path. They don't have to face a lot of tough team maybe until like the semi-final. But instead, they decided to just bow out in the round of 16. And now, I'm going to say it. I really think that when we get to the World Cup final, we are going to see a team that have never made it to the World Cup final, and that this will be their first time there, and potentially that will be the first World Cup for that country. Now, having said that, there's, I think for the lower bracket, if I look at all the team that is in that lower bracket of the knockout stage, I think there's only one team that have actually made it into the World Cup final before, and that, of course, is England, which I'm hoping they can do. And this, in some way, is kind of good news for England, because now if we do beat Colombia, and I put a big if in that word, because we still don't know how will that game will play out, and whether or not if England is going to go back to their old self and becoming kind of like the Washington Capitals of the World Cup, and just completely bows out in the round of 16. But if they beat Colombia, definitely the road to the final just got a whole lot easier. But certainly for Russia, you got to give a lot of props to this team. You got to give them credit that is due. And I was one of those that completely write them off, and I'm pretty sure everybody had wrote Russia off after this. I mean, after what happened in that Uruguay game and how bad the defending was by them, you wouldn't think they would shut down this Spanish attack that, in the group stage it hasn't been at its best, but you would think that they would eventually turn it on. But no, it didn't. They defended pretty well in this game, and they also could have probably thanked that Spanish attack, which in the second half, they were dominate possession, but again, I don't know what would they, like, why are they did not show any urgency of trying to go forward. I mean, you're tied 1-1 against Russia. This is the team that you should beat, and yet you're not showing some urgency. You think that you're still leading in this game, and that is probably one of the bigger downfall of why Spain lost this game. But yeah, with Spain, of course, now out of the tournament, that lower bracket, and the team that now I think potentially could make it all the way into the World Cup final could be Croatia. And even in this game, this was not a convincing win for Croatia, and you could say that they kind of got a little bit lucky against Denmark. I mean, to be fair, the first 5 minutes was pretty crazy. I mean, we had a goal literally 55 seconds into the game, which is the quickest so far in this tournament and the quickest in the round of 16 history, with Jurgensen scoring the goal. And really, that was just horrible defending from Croatia, and even worse goalkeeping from Subotic, the Croatia goalkeeper. I mean, it was just basically a long throw that comes into the box, kind of like a kind of Icelandic kind of long throw where hopefully the player can connect to that long throw and put it into the back of the net. But what happened in this situation was that when that long throw came into the box, there was just a scramble in the box. Like, the Croatian defense was panicking to try to get that ball out, and they never did. Eventually, the Danish player got to it, and it turns out it was Jurgensen that got to that one. And he didn't even hit it very hard. Like, he literally just kind of hit it very kind of... It was a very kind of weak shot, but it get by 2 different Croatian defender, and it even hit Subotic there as he trying to save that ball and it hit his ankle and just bounced it into the back of the net. I mean, that was just absolutely horrible defending from Croatia, and just it was an absolute dream start for Denmark. But unfortunately, their dream start kind of got cut short because 3 minutes later, Mandzukic instantly equalized, and again another bad defending. I mean, the first 5 minutes, both defense looked like completely lost and just non-existent in this game, because in this play, when Denmark was trying to clear the ball out of the area, instead that Danish defender basically cleared it and it hit one of his own player, and then when that ball ricocheted off of his teammate, it bounced right into Mandzukic, and Mandzukic basically was in a perfect area to slot that home. And at that point, it was a tie game between both of these teams. And really, I think after the chaotic kind of start that we had between both of these teams in the first 4 minutes, the rest of the way was pretty boring. I mean, you could have probably slept through the next 110 minutes in this game and you wouldn't miss a thing, because, you know, Denmark, they really started to set deep in this game. Croatia just had no idea how to break them down. And seeing how Croatia this tournament, and seeing how well they've been able to break down teams that has been very organized, and that you have seen them able to always find an answer to score that crucial goal. In this game, that was not the case. I mean, this was the performance by Croatia in this game remind me the old Croatia, when just the passing was very slow. There was no movement by the players on the attack, and just there's no creativity whatsoever. And Denmark looked very comfortable in the defensive end, and you could even argue that Denmark really kind of grew in the game as the game continued, as they continue to rely on that counter-attack, and at times it really troubled that Croatian defense. And then eventually when we get into extra time, this is where I think there is a little bit of controversy, and I think if Denmark would have won this game, this would have been one of the things that we would definitely talk about, and a lot of Croatian fans will be absolutely upset about this. So what happened was, there was a very wonderful ball. I think it was Rakitic that plays it into Modric, and Modric basically went through on goal. He was one-on-one with Kasper Schmeichel. He even beat Schmeichel there, and then one of the Denmark defender basically tackled him, and you know, it was clearly a penalty, which eventually they did give in. But what was very interesting about that is that the referee did not send off that Denmark defender, even though that was clearly a denial of a goal score opportunity, and that clearly that was the last man in. I mean, okay, yes, it wasn't a very kind of reckless kind of tackle, but when you are the last man in defense to make that tackle and make that foul, that is clearly not only a denial of goal score opportunity, but that's clearly a red card. And yet the referee gave him a yellow card, and you know, Denmark should have been down to 10 men in the last 5 minutes of this extra time. But eventually Croatia had a chance to put this game away, but Kasper Schmeichel comes up big and saved the penalty from Modric. I thought Schmeichel actually came off his line a little bit too soon. The announcer didn't really talk about it, nor does the people that I've seen on Twitter. They didn't say that Schmeichel kind of came off his line a little bit too early. They just said it was a wonderful save. And it was an incredible save from Schmeichel there, and really kind of reminds me of what happened 20 years ago when Peter Schmeichel used to always make those big penalty save in the big moment. But it did look like Kasper Schmeichel came off his line a little bit too soon, but nobody really saw it. And eventually we did win to penalty kick shootout. And really, with the way how things have gone, I thought for sure that the momentum was clearly on the Danish, because Schmeichel is just absolutely on fire right now. He is saving penalties, making big save, and Subovic has been just, you know, we saw what happened earlier in the game of how he made that kind of blunder, kind of error earlier to give away that goal to Denmark, and I didn't think that he was gonna really make some big save in this penalty kick shootout, but instead that was not the case. And in fact, this penalty kick shootout was more of a goalkeeping duel more than actually a penalty kick shootout. I mean, there was like, what, 4 penalties that was missed in this penalty kick shootout. Both keepers were going toe-to-toe to try to make big save, and eventually Croatia did outlast the Danes there. And you know, like I said, Croatia, they kind of got really lucky in this game, and that, you know, they need to definitely play much better than what they did in this game. I mean, this game that they play against Denmark was very similar to how they used to always play in the big tournament, and that, you know, I don't know if all that energy and all that kind of determination kind of really drained out of this Croatian team coming into this game, because keep in mind, this is the 4th game in like 12 days for Croatia, and you know, the fatigue is definitely going to be a factor coming into this game for Croatia and also for Denmark, because both of them also play around the same amount of games. But the good news for Croatia is that they do move on, and they do have now a week to prepare for their next match in the round of 16 against Russia. And yeah, that is going to be a very interesting one, because if Croatia plays the same way against Russia like they did play against Denmark, don't be surprised Russia can beat Croatia in that match, because it feels like what the Denmark did in this game to Croatia is something that I think Russia will also try to do, and try to be physical and trying to just put 11 men behind the box and see if Croatia can try to eventually break them down. But yeah, that's going to be definitely an interesting match. I mean, can you imagine if Russia actually goes on to the semifinals? I mean, this is probably one of the biggest underdog story that we have in the World Cup, that is Russia. I think in many ways, I really think this underdog story is better than the 2002 underdog story with South Korea as the host, and they made it all the way into the semifinal, because I remember they did had a key player on their team, which I can't believe I forgot what his name is. But with this Russian national team, and you look at them coming into this tournament, you wouldn't think that there would be any guys in that team you would just say that, well, he's gonna make a big impact. I mean, maybe Alexander Golovin, that he's been one of those guys that a lot of people talked about coming into the tournament, and maybe he would make a big impact. But still, you wouldn't think Russia would be at this point where they're still in the tournament and they're now fighting to potentially get into the last of 4 in this World Cup. But either way, guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these games, and let me know if there is going to be any more big upset in this tournament, because I just have a feeling that with how this tournament has gone and how many big teams that have been eliminated in this tournament, this is going to be a very strange quarter-final that we're going to potentially have, and we might finally get ourselves a first-time winner, and a surprising kind of winner that you wouldn't think they would win the whole competition before the tournament begin, but here they are. But we will, of course, see what happened. The round of 16 games are still not finished. We still have like 4 more round of 16 games left, and I'll preview 2 of them right after I finish this video. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.